Well, hello, U.S. history students. I hope you're having a good day. Sorry we're not meeting live today, but I look forward to seeing how you're doing when we meet again on Monday. Today we're going to spend some time, I'm going to introduce to you the Articles of Confederation, which is the foundation documents for our newly created nation after the Revolutionary War. So your learning target today is to learn about the Articles of Confederation, determine pros and cons so that you can draw some conclusions about the effectiveness of the Articles of Confederation as the basis for the new U.S. government. Before we do that, a quick look at the calendar. Today you're working on that 2.05 lesson, which is giving you good background information to use as you do the 2.05 discussion we talked about on Monday. Remember, the due date for the discussion to have your post done and respond to 3 of your classmates is by the end of the day tomorrow. However, the discussion will remain open until next Thursday, October 9th. So you have until Thursday, October 9th to get your posts completed. So if you don't get it all done tomorrow, you still have time. After the 9th, a week from this Thursday, the discussion will close and it will be too late to earn any points on the discussion ever again. So it's super important that you stay on track and meet your deadline for the discussion. And then you'll end the week with the 2.06 lesson, which is the Governing a New Nation, which is what we're previewing today. Also, reminder, if you haven't downloaded the October assignment calendar and you want to see the month overview where all the due dates are and which lessons we're going to do on which days, it is available for you in the class materials module. Also, if you haven't done the 2.02 quiz or the 2.04 quiz, those are now past due, so make sure you're getting them done. So in the 2.06 lesson, the objectives we're going to focus on today are being able to identify the Articles of Confederation, strengths and weakness, accomplishments and failures, right? And so that is the goal. We're going to do that by looking at a Crash Course in U.S. History video by John Green. We haven't watched these videos yet in the class, but I tend to use little clips of them here and there because I think that he does a really good job of using humor, and he's super smart about the content, and he gives it in a different way, and it just breaks up, you know, the monotony of hearing my voice. So we're going to watch about 4.5 minutes of this video, the Constitution. As you watch, I want you to pay attention for 3 key things. And those things are, what powers did the new federal government have and not have under the Articles of Confederation? How many states had to agree in order to pass a law? And then what were the accomplishments and failures of the central government under the Articles of Confederation? So John Green talks really fast. You need to listen really fast, but we'll kind of break it down when the video finishes. Enjoy.
Hi, I'm John Green. This is Crash Course U.S. History, and today we're going to talk about the United States Constitution. And in doing so, we're going to explore how the American style of government became the envy of the entire world, so much so that everyone else copied us. What's that, Stan? We're not going to talk about other countries stealing our form of government because no other country stole our form of government? That doesn't seem possible, Stan. No, Stan, not the libertage. Cue the intro. green areas of not America didn't copy us. All right, so as Americans may dimly remember from history classes, the constitutional system we've been living under since 1788, the year of the first presidential election, was not the original American government. The first government set up by the Continental Congress was called the Articles of Confederation, and it was, in a word, bad. In 2 words, it was not good, which is why it only lasted 10 years. The problem with the Confederation is that it wasn't so much a framework for a national government as it was a firm league of friendship, which unfortunately only sounds like a team of Care Bear superheroes. The Articles set up a government that consisted of a one-house body of delegates, with each state having a single vote, who, acting collectively, could make decisions on certain issues that affected all the states. There was no president and no judiciary. You can try to tell me that John Hanson, the president of the Congress, was the first American president, but it's just not true. Any decision required 9 of the 13 congressional votes, which pretty much guaranteed that no decisions would ever be made. Ah, supermajorities, always so efficient. But besides the 2/3 requirement, the Congress was very limited in what it could actually do. The government could declare war, conduct foreign affairs, and make treaties. Basically the stuff you need to do to go to war with England. It could coin money, but it couldn't collect taxes. That was left to the states. So if you needed money to, say, go to war with Britain, you had to ask the states politely. The Articles could be amended, but that required a unanimous vote, so 0 amendments were ever passed. The government was deliberately weak, which followed logically from Americans' fear of tyrannical governments, taxing them and quartering soldiers in their houses and so on. But here's the thing, weak government is like non-alcoholic beer. It's useless. That said, the Articles government did accomplish a couple things. First, it won the war, so yay! Unless you were a slave or a Native American, in which case, probable boo. Second, the government developed rules for dealing with one of the most persistent problems facing the new nation: Ohio, which was called the Northwest, presumably because it is north and west of Virginia. Getting control of the land meant taking it from the Indians who were living there, and the Articles government was empowered to make treaties, which it did. Crash Course World History fans will remember the Athenians telling the Melians that the strong do as they can and the weak suffer what they must, and the Americans definitely went to the Athenian school of treaty making. Through treaties signed at Fort Stanwix and Fort McIntosh, the Indians surrendered land north of the Ohio River. The biggest accomplishment of the Articles government was the Northwest Ordinance of 1787, which set up a process to create 5 new states between the Ohio and Mississippi rivers. 2 things to know about this. First, it acknowledged that American Indians had a claim to the land and that they had to be treated better if settlers wanted to avoid violence. And second, Stan, can I get the foreshadowing filter? Yes, perfect. The ordinance outlawed slavery in all 5 of the new states. Still, the Articles government was a complete disaster for exactly one reason: it could not collect taxes. Both the national government and the individual states had racked up massive debt to pay for the war, and their main source of revenue became tariffs, but because Congress couldn't impose them, states had to do it individually. And this made international trade a total nightmare, a fact worsened by the British being kind of cranky about us winning the war and therefore unwilling to trade with us. In 1786 and 1787, the problem got so bad in Massachusetts that farmers rose up and closed the courts to prevent them from foreclosing upon their debt-encumbered farms. This was called Shays' Rebellion, after Revolutionary War veteran and indebted farmer Daniel Shays. The uprising was quelled by the state militia, but for many, this was the sign that the Articles government, which couldn't deal with the crisis at all, had to go. But not for everyone. Thomas Jefferson, for instance, was a fan of Shays' Rebellion. A little rebellion now and then is a good thing. The tree of liberty must be refreshed from time to time with the blood of patriots and tyrants. Which is all fine and good, I mean, unless you're the bleeding patriots or tyrants. But to most elites, Shays' Rebellion showed that too much democratic liberty among the lower classes could threaten private property. Also, people who held government bonds were nervous because without tax revenue, they were unlikely to get paid back. And when rich people feel like something has to be done, something is usually done.
All right, I told you he talked fast, didn't I? So let's review what he had to say about the powers of the central government. So he talked about the power to declare war. The central government under the Articles of Confederation needed to be able to declare war. They could conduct foreign affairs, right? They needed to be able to talk to other countries to get support. They also could make treaties like they did with the Native Americans in the Northwest Territory of Ohio. And they could coin money. He said they could not tax. They could not impose tariffs. Tariffs and taxes had to go through the state, and the central government had to go to the state and say, please, might we have some money? So that brings us to the effectiveness and accomplishments and failures. So the accomplishments we talked about as the Northwest Territory, through the Northwest Ordinance of 1787, the treaty with the Native Americans that gave the United States 5 new states in our country, which were free states, no slavery allowed. The failures. We couldn't collect revenue as a nation. We had to rely on the states. The states had the power. The central government didn't have the power. There was a supermajority needed to vote to pass any law in the state, and a unanimous vote in order to get any amendments passed. And then again, they couldn't deal with Shays' Rebellion. So lots of things that we're kind of trying to learn and balance that became problematic for our new country, right? So hopefully you have a little bit of background now to draw some conclusions about the effectiveness of the Articles of Confederation. You will look closely at this on Friday when you do the 2.06 lesson, and that will give you more information to be able to draw that conclusion from. So I'm guessing you probably are in the close category today. You recognize there were some pros and cons, but you're not sure, or you may not be able to articulate what's what and how you're feeling about it, which is A-okay. So that brings us to a close. Remember, I get paid to help you. It's actually my job. You're never interrupting me. I love to help you. I love to see you succeed. So if you need help, please don't be afraid to ask. Keep working on that discussion. Keep working through your lessons. Go ahead, if you have questions, to send me an email. Send me a Canvas message if you want. Send me a text if you want, or give me a call. I will answer those when I get back tomorrow. Hope you have a good day, a good rest of the week, and I look forward to seeing you in live class on Monday. Bye.